We start off from the Central Region, where the Ewutu of Fankor Circuit Court, presided over by His Honor Ebenezer Osei Darko, has sentenced a pastor cum teacher, Obroni Morrison, who defiled a 9-year-old girl at Kaswa, to 3 years imprisonment and a fine of 20,000 cedis for the victim's medical expenses. Somewhere in August, the teacher at Ultimate School Complex at Kaswa was arrested by the Kaswa Divisional Police Command for allegedly defiling the 9-year-old girl after the victim reported late for extra classes. Here are excerpts of the story filed by Maxwell Agbagba earlier this month.
I am at the Kaswa residence of the Class 2 pupil. Family members are seated discussing their next line of action. Very close to them is the victim seated in a plastic chair covered with a cloth. There is a pillow supporting her back with her 2 legs resting on a kitchen stool. As she stretches in the chair, tears begin to flow. The 9-year-old girl says on the day she reported late to classes, her class teacher offered to teach her what she had missed, but ended up inserting his fingers in her genitals.
There were some children playing in the classroom where he took me. He sacked all of them. I told one of my friends there to wait, but the teacher disagreed. When I started writing, he came closer and rubbed his hands in my head and said my father has asked him to provide all my needs. He put me on one of the tables and started inserting his fingers in my genitals. It was painful. I started struggling with him. In an attempt to flee, my pelvis hit one of the tables. I fell down and later ran home with my younger sister. I was scared to tell my mom.
Mother of the victim says her daughter complained of headache some weeks ago, but was scared to tell her about the assault. She later confided in another family member.
She complained of headache some weeks ago and later talked about pains in her legs. I asked her if she had fought with anyone. We later took her to the hospital, where the doctor told me she had been sexually abused. She later narrated her ordeal to one of my relatives. The suspect's wife has been pleading with me to resolve the issue at home, and she even promised to cater for her, but we disagreed.
The victim's grandfather says the suspect confessed to the crime and later gave them 50 Ghana cedis to cater for the girl, but denied the allegation when they reported the matter to the police.
He told me that, I know the accused very well, and then the wife. He told me that he begged me I should forgive him.
Now we can hear from an uncle of the victim, Emmanuel Nelson Yalvi, who says the family is content with justice served.
At long round, the judge came to the conclusion by sentencing the guy or the accused to 36 years imprisonment.
36 months.
36 months imprisonment. That was 3 years. Besides that 3 years, you have to pay 20,000 Ghana cedis to the family for causing harm to the family. Besides, the accused has nothing to say, etc. So he was handcuffed in the courtroom, ready to go to prison. So in this case, we all stood out, and then we have to come back home. And fortunately, you being the Adum FM, you have followed this case several times. It's very appreciated to me, and I'm giving a very good thank, asking a God blessing to all of you, the Adum FM, as well as other intermediate.
Now, 5 pregnant women have died this year alone in the Bayum electoral area in the East Gonja district of the northern region because their roads were flooded and they could not cross to Tamale for healthcare. Just last week, another child passed away after they were referred to Tamale West Hospital. The northern region this year has received heavy rainfall, which has worsened already bad roads and cutting several communities off. Correspondent Martina Bugri has more in the following report.
It is only the strong who can wade through the flooding waters into the community. For the vulnerable, like the elderly, pregnant women and children, they cannot cross no matter how critical the situation is. Assemblyman for the area, Tadawuni, told Joy News several calls for the road to be fixed have fallen on deaf ears.
There has never been any General Assembly meeting that I don't raise this issue of the road. The Assembly, looking at their budget allocation, cannot be able to fund the construction of the road. As we speak, World Bank is making an effort to get the road constructed, but that is taking quite a long time. We are appealing to the central government as a matter of urgency to consider the construction of this road. Just the beginning of the rainy season, up to now, we have lost more than 5 lives, women who are on labor and are not able to be transported to hospital just because the road is not good.
A resident, Karim Fusena, said they had to carry a pregnant woman who was in labor in a tricycle to be able to cross.
The day before yesterday, a woman in my house was in labor. It was this yellow motorcycle when we got to the water, all of us dropped and raised the yellow woman crossed. We did that about 4 times in portions of the road that is flooded. By the time we got to the hospital, she was tired, and so they had to operate upon her because she could not push. We lost the baby because of the delay, and that is because of the bad nature of the road.
A nurse at the Kulchila Chips compound, Mohammed Al Hassan, said people continue to die each year because of the bad nature of the roads.
Last 2 weeks, I had a severe anemic case. I used my HemoQ to check. Then I referred them to Tamale West Hospital. That day, the place was very flooded. So they reached there and the water was, because they can't cross, they stood there waiting for maybe evening time, the water will go before they can cross the road. Finally, the child has to pass away there. We encounter a number of cases like that. You refer cases because of the road issue, they have to wait the next day they will go. So for the road, we are appealing to the government and those who are the philanthropists to come to our aid to see if they can construct the road.
Another community member, Yakubu Hadi, said parents in the area have stopped their children from crossing to school for fear they could drown. He warned no politician should venture into the area to campaign if the roads are not fixed.
We are having a lot of problems concerning the road. Looking at the road is terribly bad. Due to the badness of the road, we are not developing at all because the students in the next village, they can pass to go to town for schooling. And sometimes the farmers there, they can't go to farm. Sometimes somebody will be seriously sick and they have to take him to hospital. They can't. They will leave that fellow. That fellow will be in pain until he die or she die. Just look at these things. So we are begging government to come to our aid and help us. If not that, none of the politicians should make a mistake to come to our place and do campaign.
You're welcome back. Now, the price at which you buy fuel at the pumps could go down by up to 10% if government is bold enough to remove the special petroleum tax on the products. That's according to the minority in Parliament. They're demanding the government immediately scraps the levy, which was introduced in 2015 when the price of fuel fell to record low levels. Minority spokesperson on Mines and Energy, Adams Mutawakilu, says it is insensitive for government that government has done nothing so far to cushion Ghanaians in the light of the increasing fuel prices, which he says is the result of poor management of the city. He addressed a media briefing in Parliament House earlier Wednesday.
By 15th of October, we'll start going to the various regions, the various districts, to educate them to know the reason why we are calling for the special petroleum tax to be removed. Currently, it's about 46 pesos per liter. And if it's about 5 liters a gallon, you are talking about 2 cedis, 2 pesos. If you calculate it, and if you take it off or calculate it as a percentage, that's about 10%. So if you reduce it by about 10%, you see that it would have absorbed this 5% and will still have a surplus. So we call on Nana Akufo-Addo 2 main things. Look, work on the economy. The cedi is depreciating fast against the dollar. 2, remove the special petroleum tax. We don't need it at this stage, and the people of Ghana dearly need it at this point in time to be removed.
In another development, Mr. Mutawakilu is demanding that EOCO fast-tracks investigations into allegations the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Board illegally transferred 40.5 million cedis into an account at the presidency managed by Chief of Staff, former Chief of Staff Julius Deborah, during the NDC administration. The Bulk Oil Distributors Company has described the transaction as suspicious, but Mr. Mutawakilu says the EOCO investigations will vindicate the NDC government.
Cool. It's looking at it. And my information is that there's nothing like wrongdoing. Somebody has embezzled money. No. It is a public account. You get my point? It's a public account. There are records to trace. If not, all records would have been destroyed. So in the spirit of good governance, transparency, you follow to the logical conclusion. So I don't see the reason why it's made as if the Chief of Staff put the money in his personal account. No, it is an official account. Official exchange letters took place, put in a file. Another government comes. EOCO is investigating it. I think that EOCO to fast track it to come with the truth. Because there is nothing hidden. And I also believe that it is because of these 2 scandals that has hit Bust. They want a cover-up. If not, you didn't need to bring anything of this nature once it is being investigated by EOCO.
Well, following the start of the limited registration exercise on Sunday, some youth and chiefs in Amenfi West, East and Central in the Western region are demonstrating against the exclusion from the new Western North region. According to the group, the paramount chief of the area, Tetre Okwamwa Sechim II, signed a petition to the commission to be part of the Western North region, but they were taken out before the final report. Correspondent Inathalia Kwanza sent the following report.
The demonstrators from the Wassa Amenfi West, East and Central were clad in red attire with placards exhibiting their displeasure. Dennis Kojo-Appiah spoke on behalf of the youth of Amenfi.
Basically, we are here today to demonstrate, to register our displeasure to the President and the Commission for not making the 3 Amenfi as part of the Western North region. When the engagement started, our Omahene, who is Nana Tetrete Okwamwa Sechim, was one of the petitioners who sent the petition to President to form the new region. we have engaged the commission in so many ways. Unfortunately for us, when the report of the commission came out, the 3 Amenfi states have been left out. This is the main reason why we are demonstrating today, that the 3 Amenfis want to be part of Western North region.
Divisional Chief of Sompre in the Amenfi Central District, Nana Sasranko Jima II, explained how the 3 Amenfi districts contributed to the consultations towards the creation of the Western North region. He appealed to the president to fulfill his campaign promise made to the people of Amenfiman by giving them the new region.
Free SHS for the Aba.
The president promised to implement the free SHS and he delivered. President Akufo-Addo saw that the Western region was too big, so he decided to create the Western North region that includes Amenfi area. One of our chiefs led us to the commission and we agreed to be part of the Western North region. But later we realized we have been excluded. So I asked my chief if he had sent any document to the government contrary to what we agreed upon, and he denied any such move.
Former NPP constituency chairman for Amenfi West, Kojo Boachi Yadom, also expressed disappointment at the decision of the commission to exclude the Amenfi West, East and Central from the Western North region.
The point is, it's a policy of NPP government to divide the region into 2, which is Western North and South. Initially, it came together that Amenfi, all the Amenfi people want to work together with the establishment of the Amenfi, what was Western North. I was part of the committee that went to Castle. I was part of the committee that went to Castle, including all the chiefs in the Amenfi Safi area, the Gabisu area, the Anwayi area, the Adesu area. They were all there, including Commerce Chundomani, is my father. And we all agreed that we will join the Western North. To be honest with you, we are waiting on to be realized that they are making the registration and Amenfi is not part of it. I want them. People in the North, people in the South have gotten everything already. They have the harbour, they have the airport, they have everything secondly. People are talking about language. What is it about? Language means that we can speak with the hands, which of course is no. We can speak with the people of Nzima, which is of course no. We don't have the same language. That should not be a barrier. If you can't speak language with self, it doesn't mean you cannot join them. I hope you understand my point. So we are saying, as far as development is concerned, Amenfi is for Western North.
In Athalia Consensus reports for Joy News.
From one protest to another, physician assistants have called off their nationwide strike over conditions of service. Leadership announced the decision after a crunch meeting as government assured it will address their concerns. The association laid down its tools on the September 10, leaving some health facilities crippled. President of the Ghana Physician Association, Chief Imoro Bandana, says the two parties will meet again on September 23 to agree on timelines to meet their demands. Chief Bandana is optimistic consensus will be reached to avert a recurrence of the industrial action.
Yeah, we are calling off the strike because yesterday we were at the Ministry of Health office to meet the Deputy Minister for Health, Honorable Tina Mensah, and with her Chief Director and the very important people in the ministry. It was unanimously accepted that all our grievances, they will look into all. They had actually tried to address them before we got there. And when they read what they planned to do, were satisfied with what they had planned to do for us. And if that is actually true, then we don't think that we should continuously stick to the strike action we have taken against the ministry. Okay. And we hope that from there, we had to do some consultation with members, and we decided that we should call off the strike. and we have actually called off the strike, and that we have asked all members to go to work, at least from today. But we are very confident that by Friday, everybody should have gone back to work and everything should have normalized. With all the demands, they have agreed. They've also realized that the demands, they are long overdue. So they try to address them one after the other. And after doing that, particularly the salary discrepancies, they said they will call in fair wages. With the job description, the director for the human resource, Ghana Health Service was there, and the director for Ministry of Health was there. And they really realized that the job description was actually very, very old. And they have also, they've earlier on given us some work to do, and we are sure that, they assured us that job description too will be done. With conditions of service, they have also assured us in a way that it will be done. They will invite the fair wages and others. With the specialization, they saw the need because they realized that after school, there was no need for, there was no specialization. So you match time until you go on pension.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsin. We're taking a short break, but still ahead, as concerns over government's decision to hand over management of the country's digital transmission platform to Chinese firm StarTimes increase, government reveals it's settled with the company to avoid destroying the cordial relationship between Ghana and China. And we'll bring you some perspectives of China's growing influence in Africa. And coming up in business, banks and currency dealers optimistic cedi's stability will be realized sooner than earlier projected.
Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to business. Some banks and currency dealers say they are optimistic the cedi's stability would be realized sooner than earlier projected. The Bank of Ghana recently predicted the local currency should stabilize against the dollar from next month. But would this help deal with the panic reactions from businesses? We have more in this report.
Some of the commercial banks say the improved supply has helped them meet the demands of customers. For instance, one of the big banks in the country says it used to get just a fraction of dollars from the Bank of Ghana, but it is now getting almost half of their daily request. However, we understand that most of the supply is going to big corporate clients of these banks. The Bank of Ghana is also vetting the request of the banks in the way that will ensure that supply actually goes to firms that are demanding it for business purposes. It is believed that the latest move could help fast-track the cedi's stability and also deal with situations where financing for imports of some businesses are being delayed because of this development. According to the central bank, they have released more than $200 million to help support the cedi this month. Some analysts have argued that this approach is not sustainable, but the Bank of Ghana has maintained that this is a short-term strategy to help stabilize the local currency while they deal with the structural issues.
The country would be getting more from its gold exports. This follows an agreement initialed on Wednesday between the Precious Mineral Marketing Company PMMC and UK gold trading firm Baird & Co. to help test the purity of gold exported. Lorena Baird is the executive director of UK gold trading firm.
We have the technology. So when they came and they explained what they were trying to achieve and how they wanted to help also GRI and the Minister of Finance to improve their revenue, I thought that it was a very interesting project, very worth it to bring our expertise, our know-how, transfer the technology, and bring some transparency in the gold industry in Ghana.
So more of like upgrading the standards. So when it comes to measuring of gold, is that what you're going to do?
Yes. Gold comes off the ground. It's alluvial or hard rock. And that has a concentration of 92, 93, 94. It depends of the areas and the zones. What is very important for the Ghanaian government to know is exactly how much the concentration that is leaving every day the country has, because based on that, you create the tax bills.
One would ask for you, so at the end of the day, what are you hoping to achieve from this whole partnership? Apart from helping them, you're also a businesswoman as well.
Of course.
And what are you hoping to realize from this whole deal?
we will be charging an assaying fee. Every time we make an assay, we will be paid for the for the assaying fee.
Now, industrialist and former president of the Association of Ghana Industries, Dr. Tony Oteng-Gyesi, has identified under-invoicing and under-declaration within the tax clearing process as a major setback to the country's industrial growth. He was speaking on day 2 of the AGI Industrial Summit in Accra. Ebenezer Sabute has more.
Dr. Tony Obeng says plans for the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda will survive a joint effort of the private sector and government institutions. He was worried the bad or corrupt practices at both levels will not augur well for the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. According to him, the major challenge facing Ghana's industries is the issue of tax evasion and indiscipline at the various regulatory agencies. He therefore called on the state law enforcement agencies to ensure massive compliance of the various laws of the country, especially at the ports.
What makes it worse is when you have a situation where your country is so indisciplined that somebody can bring in finished product which is supposed to be taxed at 10% or 20% and manage to bring it in without paying those appropriate taxes. Then you have a real problem with your industrialization effort, because he is going to undermine anybody who seeks to produce. And this is the basics of moving from taxation to production. The question is, how are we going to do that? How come people can bring in goods without paying the appropriate? It's breaking the law.
Speaking on standards enforcement and development, Chief Executive of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu, noted that the use of substandard raw materials for the manufacturing sector is increasingly.
The Ministry of Business Development has signed an agreement with the Chamber Institute of Business Creation and Development to come up with a training program to promote and support entrepreneurship development. The agreement will see young and budding entrepreneurs travel to Spain and on exchange programs from March 2019. There's more in this report.
The 30 million cedi agreement will see young and budding entrepreneurs engage in exchange programs in Spain from March 2019. Speaking to Joy Business, Sector Minister Mohamed Awal stated the agreement will see over 2,000 young entrepreneurs benefit from the program.
The business school, that's why they are here. They have long history of coaching, training, and monitoring. So it's a partnership between us, the embassy, and this Casa and Exen, our embassy in Spain, and then the University of Ghana Business School. So they will do monitoring alongside the ministry, making sure that there's a monthly quarter reporting to ensure that what our plan has been planned is well executed.
On her part, the Spanish ambassador to Ghana, Alicia Rico, expressed confidence in the impact this agreement will have on job creation and entrepreneurship. In an interview with Joy Business, Alicia stated that the Spanish government stands committed to be one of Ghana's leading economic partners.
And it is to offer training and for entrepreneurs to set up businesses and to look for adequate financing. And so with this cooperation, we want to contribute to the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda and the setting up of businesses, creating jobs, and generating wealth. I think is one of the priorities, and Ghana has a very entrepreneurial spirit, especially among the youth, and I think this will benefit the country, and it's particularly because we are going to train trainers. So these trainers will be able to train many more entrepreneurs here in Ghana.
The Institute of Creation and Development of Enterprise Insight Foundation is an institution of the Chambers of Commerce with headquarters in Madrid, Spain. The parties seek to boost and encourage the participation of young people, workers, and unemployed individuals in programs that contribute to their training and professional development.
Local content participation should be a priority in revamping the country's railway sector. That's according to an expert. Addressing the media at a public lecture on industrialization, Director for the Institute for Infrastructure Development, Charles Boachi, said Proper assessment of the project could lead to some 80% local content participation, which will include sourcing of raw materials.
Over the years, Ghana's railway sector has largely been relegated to the background, despite the fact that this is a major source of transport for industrial development. It is estimated that the government will require $7 billion to revive the railway sector in Ghana. Government's quest to revamp the sector has caught the attention of some foreign investors. It is for this reason that the director of the Institute for Infrastructure Development, Charles Boakye, is urging government to utilize the vast raw materials available in the country.
The track infrastructure is largely about quarrying materials, it's largely about granites, largely about laterite, formation, ballast, slippers. These are all materials that can be produced here. When we did the weighting, we broke them down. And the railway sector, we broke them down, track infrastructure and signal and telecommunication and buildings, that's the terminals, the stations. We realized that we can demand as much as 80% as local content. I think we haven't utilized the entire design and development chain. You see, development chain involves doing feasibility, and then planning and then designing.
Meanwhile, Mr. Boakye also spoke about the need to develop a state credit system to resuscitate the industrial sector.
The industrial sector is being weakened, and it's about time we find a means of reviving the sector, because that is where wealth can be created. Yeah, so generally, there's a lot of things that we can do basically to add value to minerals, and we went through the value addition processes. We have to also create credit system. It's not all about money. It's not about money at all. It's about ideas, it's about strategies, and if we focus, we have a good plan, we'll be able to achieve it.
Charles Boakye spoke to the media at a public lecture on creating rapid industrialization, employment opportunities, and a stimulus for the Ghanaian economy.
And that's business on Joy News Prime. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We are free. There's more news ahead. Have a good evening.
You're welcome back. Now, as concerns over government's decision to hand over management of the country's digital transmission platform to Chinese firm StarTimes increase, government has revealed it's settled with the company to avoid destroying the cordial relationship between Ghana and China. Several civil society organizations, including the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, the National Media Commission, as well as some members of Ghana's parliament, have all raised red flags about government's decision, warning it could negatively impact broadcasting in the country. They're asking government to back out of the deal, but it doesn't appear that will happen anytime soon. Now, although the Chinese company earlier sued the Ghana government over the matter but lost at an international arbitration hearing, it has emerged that Attorney General Gloria Ekufu advised Ghana not to proceed with arbitration proceedings initiated by the Chinese. Here is Deputy Communications Minister George Anda speaking on the Super Morning Show earlier Wednesday.
The previous administration signed a contract to access the Chinese Exim Bank facility, and there was an obligation for Messrs. StarTimes to be the contractor. And you know how these Chinese Exim Bank facilities work. After a period, StarTimes were not able to do the execution, and the funds had not come in. So the ministry abrogated the contract through a legal process and decided, with approval of the cabinet, to sell spectrum. And they put 2 blocks of spectrum, and the proceeds of that spectrum sale was supposed to fund this project. It went through due process. MTN bought the spectrum, paid for it. There was 1 block that was unsold. Messrs. KNet won the contract to do the execution, and that was what started happening. StarTimes then took the government of Ghana to court here. They lost, and then they went to international arbitration, which was part of their rights
within the contract. Upon assuming office and stating the briefs and everything, and upon consultation with the Attorney General, there was a decision to have a settlement. And as part of the settlement, if these terms are acceptable, is to reinstate the StarTimes contract, looking at them enhancing the network and then accessing the Chinese Exim Bank facility. However, like I repeated yesterday over and over again, we are not even there yet because we haven't gone through the requisite approvals for the enhancement of the network. We haven't signed nothing. There's no approval that, or there's no definite position that StarTimes are going to be enhancing the network.
So essentially, a major factor in government's decision in handing over the contract to StarTimes is the bilateral relations between the two countries and the possibility of it being fractured and subsequently Ghana losing millions of dollars in aid from China. It's safe to say that China has become a major economic superpower and has been extending its influence in recent times to Africa, leaving a lot of people worried. But opinions on the Chinese operations on the continent are mixed. Dr. Yao Graham is coordinator for research and advocacy group Third World Network, and he says fears about Chinese growing influence are exaggerated.
Look at this Ghana economy. The claim that somehow there's a China takeover, it's grossly overstated.
We shouldn't be worried at all as a nation.
No, in relation to the things that we are doing with China, we should have a yardstick of asking, are we optimizing the development possibilities for our country from those relations that we are developing with China? What we Ghanaians, I think, should first be interested in is not the headline representation, what came out of it, but we should ask for some details which allow us to analyze. The first line I think that we should be discussing is the country needs more information about all these agreements so that the debate can be joined across the board. China, the biggest country in the world in terms of population, once upon a time the biggest developing country, still largely a developing country in terms of per capita income, has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty and become an industrial leader. Now that itself, that whole transformation thing, contains many, many, many lessons that a developing country like Ghana can learn from, both positive and negative. So that model contains lessons, not simply opportunities for loans, but also parts of transformation.
But journalism lecturer and expert in geopolitics, Eche Sikanku, disagrees.
Conversation that we need to have, because it speaks to not just the present fortunes of our country, but then also the future of this where this nation develops will go. The next generation that comes after us might be bound by some of the agreements that have been signed right now. I, for instance, I'm not necessarily enthused, you see, about the rush to go to China by our African leaders. I mean, Mnangagwa, Zambia, Kenya.
But the proponents say that, gone are the days when the West or the Western countries would lend you money without any conditionalities. China is willing to lend money, and if it has it and we need it for our development, why not go for it?
Yeah, and that is why we need to be very critical in inspecting the deals that are signed. Some of them, they are concessions to our natural resources. Some of them, if you look at the economics of it, they've said that we have ended up having to pay more over the long term for those loans. They are quite expensive. And so the question is that what are we giving out, or what are we subjugating in order to get that? I do not think that any nation has developed by begging. I do not think that any nation has developed by being subservient to other global powers or institutions. So the point is that Africa must begin to look inward or within itself, and that is what the whole dream of people like Kwame Nkrumah was, that our development must be circumscribed by Afrocentric ideals and not necessarily Eurocentric or American ideals. This Ghana Beyond Aid mantra caught on here in Ghana, in Africa, and mind you, even in the Western world, because they began paying attention that this is a new language or breed of leaders that we are seeing in Africa. And so there needs to be some congruence or complementarity between the rhetoric and the action.
You're welcome back. Now, it will take 1,000 years for the poorest woman to earn the monthly salary of the richest man in Ghana. That's according to a report by Oxfam, Send Ghana, and the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition Programs Manager in charge of inequality with Oxfam Ghana, Zakaria Suleiman, blames, among other things, the growing levels of corruption for the widening inequality gap in Ghana. Nancy Emefa Dradosi has more in this report.
There have been several concerns on the worrying trend of inequality in Ghana. A recent troubling research reveals it will take 1,000 years for the poorest woman to earn the monthly salary of the richest man in Ghana. What this means is that the income inequality gap is widening steadily. Programs Manager in charge of inequality with Oxfam Ghana, Zakaria Suleimana, blames on poor public financial management and corruption.
That finding buttresses the fact that men dominate our economy and men form the greater part of the richest people in Ghana. But we have identified 5 drivers of inequality, and the fact is that it is increasing. The first one is that our financial management systems are poor. Of course, we cannot forget about corruption.
Meanwhile, governance expert Dr. Eric Ojosai has lashed out at politicians for doing little to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, accusing them of constantly taking advantage of the poor to enrich themselves.
There are people who are jailed for 8 years, for minor offenses, and then people who are able to steal and still walk free, just because some of the systems, they are able to pay very good lawyers, they are able to get, justice quickly, but the poor may not get the same. And it's also one of the issues of inequality that we have identified, so that it doesn't look like the system is set in place to favor others at the expense of the poor.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, MFA Beauty Nate, has waded into the recent arrest of the 49-year-old man who allegedly stole 2 bundles of toilet rolls reserved for parliamentarians. According to her, there should be equality in justice system to ensure the politicians are also made to face the full rigors of the law when found culpable.
The systems, they are able to pay very good law.
Nancy Emefa Dradosi, Joy News.
Now, Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Patrick Boama, wants metropolitan and municipal and district assemblies to up their game in the fight against open defecation. He says it's unpleasant that 1 out of 5 Ghanaians practice open defecation and charge district assemblies to do the work they receive salaries for. Patrick Boama was speaking at the launch of Media Coalition in partnership with the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, CONUAS, on the menace of open defecation in Ghana. Selenam Ampo was at the launch and has filed the following report.
More than 5 million Ghanaians practice open defecation, largely because of lack of toilet facilities and also because of bad attitude. The practice is not just shameful, but also exposes the public to numerous health risks. Unfortunately, bushes, fields and water bodies are used as open defecation grounds. The Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Patrick Boama, who witnessed the launch of Media Coalition against open defecation, was not too happy with the work of metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies and called on them to be proactive.
You are paid at the end of the month to go around the communities to ensure that people comply with basic things. What money must you be given to go and undertake what you are being paid for at the end of the month? You work in Abekan, for example, my constituency. It's a walking distance to go around down south, Fadama, and all the communities to ensure. Must you be given TNT? What other facilities do they need? I don't think there's any excuse in that regard. People must work because they are being paid to perform a certain task.
Deputy Minister said in line with the National Sanitation Campaign, the ministry has trained an environmental task force to prosecute individuals who practice open defecation.
The MMDAs, who are the actual implementers, who are the prosecutors, who are the officials, who are paid by us, by the people of Ghana, must do those functions or perform those functions that you mentioned. So we trained last year, I opened a seminar, we trained over 145 environmental health prosecutors at the African Radiant Hotel. We brought justices from the court who took them through all the laws governing sanitation and how to lead evidence before court when somebody falls foul of the law. So the ministry cannot go out there and be arresting. People have been trained, people are being paid to do that.
The managing director of Multimedia, Santok Singh, describes the trend as alarming and pledged the support of Multimedia towards fighting the cause.
Something that, what I say is that I'm glad to be part of this coalition, but it's not something new that we are going to do. We have been doing this advocacy for a long time, and we'll continue to do that. This open defecation. This is very alarming, and we have to stop that. Okay, of course we can blame the government for not building enough or not doing enough, not enforcing enough. But at the same time, I also want to force us, ourselves, that what are we doing as well to eradicate this problem. Like I said to the whole team media coalitions that we are committed in Multimedia, that we'll continue to do what we are doing, and we'll do it even more aggressively. So thank you.
The Media Coalition pledged to exert pressure on authorities to deliver on promises of ending open defecation and also increase public education. Selinam Ampo report for Journalists.
Now, members of the Volunteer Media Communicators for MPP will, by the end of today, that's Wednesday, receive new mobile phones to begin radio and television communications for the party. The group last week burnt their mobile phones in protest against what they call neglect by the party. A week after the rare protest, the group says party leadership has taken steps to address their concerns, with some party faithful promising to get them new phones to resume their work immediately. Nanaya Jima has more.
Members will not reveal the identity of individuals who have made promises to replace the phones, nor will they tell the media the type of phones they will receive. The group will give no details to the issues, but thank the president and the party leadership at both the national and regional levels. Executive member for the group, Eric Riafia-Kinting, says the group will immediately resume the activities as they work towards retaining power in the next elections.
In fact, we are most grateful to all of you, and this has urged us that if somebody sitting somewhere thinks the colours mean nothing to them, in fact, the grassroots has shown to us that we mean a lot to them, and we are so grateful to everybody who showed concern towards this cause. And like I said, we thank the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, the vice president, and all leaders of this party who came to our aid. If you monitor the media, there is, you can see that the NDC people have, taken over. They've captured everywhere. I'm making a lot of noise, but you see, there's a saying that no cry, but you see, we are telling them that we are coming back. All the things that they've said, we are coming back, and you will come to reply them.
Though leadership is yet to find a lasting solution to their challenge, they are optimistic of a lasting solution. Eric Riafia-Kinting again.
I think like I said, it was an opportunity, meeting a lot of these leaders. And the assurance that has been given, I think, is enough for us. We are party members. Though it doesn't come as we are speaking now, but we trust what they told us. We believe, those who met us, we trust them. In fact, most of them were even surprised that it has come this far, because to them, most of our issues, they are pertinent. Petty things that the party could have solved, earlier.
Now, cutting down the excess public expenditure in order to protect the public purse can only be possible if the political actors give the public servants mandated to do so the necessary support. This is the call of the Chief Policy Analyst of the Ghana Institute of Public Policy Options, Dr. Charles Reku-Broby, speaking to Joy News' Emefa Achiamwa Eli ahead of the Banredu Memorial Lectures to mark the 10th anniversary of the death of the then Finance Minister. Dr. Charles Reku-Broby said the only way Ghana can check wastage of resources is to support individuals who work hard to guard the public purse.
Power easily. And if people are sitting at the center and they've been so used to many years of doing things in a certain way that keeps the power within them, then they are afraid of change. And what the tomorrow's speaker has done is that he has shown that without changing the laws of Ghana, without seeking new legislation, the existing legislation can be made to work to check the excesses of people who don't do what they should be doing. For example, let me give my own example. I was delighted when he said he was going to check the quality of roads that are passed as fit for purpose in this country. I was delighted because I am a trained engineer. And for me, one of the most ridiculous and abiding shame I have is that I have fellow engineers who pass roads as fit for purpose just for them to fall apart in 6 months' time. It is unpardonable that any engineer worth their salt should go and certify a road as having met the standard required so that people can be paid and so that they may benefit from whatever. So when the Auditor General says, oh, he knows that there are methods by which you can check whether the road that has been constructed has met its purpose, and that he has the power to do that. And I'm saying to myself, there's somebody showing innovation. There's somebody saying, oh, as long as I am committed to do the job that I've been asked to do, there are ways and means in which it can be done. Now, that's, of course, ruffling the well-established feathers, and there will be resistance. If we really are serious about protecting the public purse, then people like tomorrow's speaker should be given encouragement and given the support that they need. And don't forget, the position he holds is a constitutionally established position, and it's stipulated that in his work he should not be directed. And I admire him for the fact that he's taking his job seriously and wanting to ensure that we do not just occupy the positions and the specs and then enjoy them and just retire and say that we also served in this position in Ghana.
And you may have heard him speaking about the main speaker for that program. That would be Auditor General Daniel Domelovo. Now, imagine growing crops on land that require the use of no fertilizers, but still highly productive because it's fertile, virgin land, reclaimed from the sea less than 50 years ago. That's the advantage that a lot of farmers in the Netherlands have, which they say is helping avoid pollution of the environment. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has more.
This map shows the land area of Netherlands today compared to more than 700 years ago. About 17% of Netherlands' current land has been reclaimed from the sea or lakes. The government has built long stretches of sea defense walls called dikes across the sea and pumped out the water, creating dry lands there. The farmers say these areas are rich in soil nutrients and they are able to farm without fertilizers.
But everywhere in the world, I know nowhere in the world is so much calcium in the ground as here.
Okay.
Because I know the club root in the world is the biggest problem. But only on the bottom of the sea we have much calcium in the ground.
So this large area you see in the background is an area that previously was part of the seabed. Well, more than 100 years ago, the work began to clear the water from this area, and then the land was allowed to dry, and farmers were then allowed to move in to undertake their plantation activities, and they're excited that they are farming in a place that was previously part of the sea.
Water is no problem, to get water is no problem. We like to farm below sea level.
Flevoland is the most recent Dutch province and was only created in 1986 on land that was mostly reclaimed in the 1950s and 1960s. The soils here are thus highly nutritious because these are the first farmers to grow food here.
So I'm a lucky farmer because in this area it used to be the sea bottom. So if the dikes break through today, there will be 3 meters water here, or maybe 4 or 5. But the good thing is that 1,000 years of fertility from Europe was flooding with the rivers into this area. So you could say, I've got a big reward where I'm standing on, because organic matter gives you, like in the forest, you know, if trees are falling and rotting away, and we have organic matter here, so that helps, and which is fantastic, and enough calcium from the past.
Ghana continues to lose lands to the sea, but the Netherlands have been bold enough to reclaim lands from the sea. And this has helped make it the second largest exporter of agricultural produce in the world after the USA, and their agriculture continues to grow with every passing day. For Joy News, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, Netherlands.
Now, the career choice dilemma that confronts many children in Ghana mostly leave them undecided and unable to achieve their potential. But that is set to change in the Tema Manhian community as Car Powership Ghana Company Limited, as part of its corporate social responsibility, has introduced a mentorship program for pupils of the Manhian TMA JHS 1 and 2. Speaking on the sidelines of the event, communications specialist at the company, Sandra Amakwe, said the initiative will guide pupils in their career choice. Here's Beryl Richter's report.
Mentoring contributes significantly to the personal and social growth and development of pupils. In Ghana, many pupils complete basic schools without direction and guidance of career choice. Experts believe the situation partly accounts for graduate unemployment in the country. It is for this reason that Car Powership Ghana Company Limited, as part of its corporate social responsibility, has introduced a mentorship program for pupils in the Tema Manhian community. Corporate communication specialist for the company, Sandra Amakwe, is optimistic the initiative will positively influence the career choice of pupils.
One of our major passions is education. We believe that education is a major tool that can change the world. So as part, we channel our investment into education. So this is one of our CSR projects we do in the community. We have paid bursary for about 100 students in the community schools, and this mentorship program is supposed to guide the students even as they begin the new academic year.
Some beneficiaries of the scholarship package provided by CARPA shared the impact of the program.
Today I've learned the guidelines that will guide me to achieve my career in future, and also I would love, when I grow, I will become a philanthropist to help people. I also learned that I should identify my weakness so that I work towards it.
I want to become a teacher, and then it has motivated me that me becoming a teacher, I must learn very hard.
I learned that before you choose a career, you have to have a mentor and also learn hard. Try to learn what you love to do, but you don't know how to do. try to pursue it. Seek help from teachers. Let people who are around you help you so that you can develop your career choice in the future.
Headmaster of Mahia TMS JHS1, Ransford Nunu, believes the program introduced by CAPA is a step in the right direction.
Most of them have a problem with career choosing, so I believe this has come to enlighten them.
Since the beginning of CAPA ship's operation in Ghana, the company has consistently supported the Tema Mahia community in the areas of community development and education. 60 pupils from the Mahia TMA JHS have so far benefited from the bursary package from the company.
Now, the salinity in the sea is a major reason for rusting of metals and specifically roofing sheets of residents living along the coast. Situation is not different for people living at South La Estate, a suburb of Accra, as they have had to deal with changing their roofing sheets as the roofs deteriorate. As we get ready for the Joy News Western World Properties Habitat Fair this weekend, experts say it is always advisable to seek professional advice when dealing with roofing for that dream home. Nancy Emefa Jadosi has more in this report.
Living along the seashore can be a beautiful experience until your items begin to rust. Specifically, that's one thing that adds beauty to your home, the roofing sheets. Nee Philip has been living here for 2 decades. He laments how difficult it is to maintain his roofs after changing them many times.
I've been here like almost 20 years, and if you may see, we just put some slate on top so that it will not be like giving us a problem more. And at least we have been changing it like almost 5, if I may say, like almost like 5 times now. It gives us a lot of problems.
In light of the continual threat of the salinity in the sea, experts say issues of rusting can always be managed properly.
So for the people living around the coastal areas, your best bet is to go for pure aluminium sheets, because with that it's rust resistant and the salt is not able to fight it like it would fight other kind of materials. So if you live around the coastal areas, don't go in for any inferior thing aside aluminium. So that is what I'll advise them to go in for.
In Wooden Estate, a suburb of the Greater Accra region, almost everyone has concrete blocks placed on their roofing sheets to ensure their roof stands against the storms.
There are times when it's rain and the storm. Nearing the sea, the storm winds is very heavier than living on the other side. To protect your roofing, you have to improvise and then put that, because there are some roofing days that with time, because of the sea breeze, it get corroded. So when there is a storm or a strong wind, it just blows the roofing off. But what you do, you just try to, after the rains, repair it and then reinforce the nails that are corroded.
But our experts say there should be a conscious effort to go for durable roofing sheets capable of withstanding the raging storms.
So if it comes to roofing, you just want to engage a professional, because the roofing is supposed to last a lifetime. If you put block on your roof, it's not sustainable, of course. So you need to get a very good professional to give you good installers. And then once they install the roof very well, you don't have problems with your roofing sheets flying off when it's stormy or when it's windy. So you don't have to put the block. The block can be saved for masonry works.
What about the nails that are used, for these roofing sheets? Because they complain that sometimes the nail rather gets rusted, and so it comes off, and so it forces also the wind to take out the roofing sheet.
Okay, so as we have aluminium sheets, we have aluminium accessories as well. So we have aluminium nails that are used specifically for such installations. So if you are going in for aluminium sheets, you better get everything aluminium so it won't rust. Once it rusts, then it creates the chance for holes. And then once there are holes, you have issues with leakage. When it rains, it will go into your building. So you have to make sure that once you are getting aluminium sheets, you are getting aluminium accessories.
For solutions to all your roofing needs, Patrons are encouraged to make their way to the Joy News Western World Properties Habitat Fair this weekend to find solutions to your housing needs. See you at this year's event at the Providence Event Center from the 21st to the 23rd of this month, 2018. Nancy Emefa Dredosi, Joy News.
And as Nancy indicated, the event kickstarts from Friday, 21st September to Sunday, 23rd September 2018 at the Providence Events Center, adjacent Auto Chill at Trade Fair from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Moving on to some health stories, the National Cardiothoracic Center is advising people to practice healthy lifestyles as it records over 100 heart-related cases at its center daily. The center is worried that if this is not done, many more heart-related deaths will be recorded, with a likelihood of impacting negatively on the nation's economic development. Hannah Odame joined members of the center at the launch of the World Heart Day today and reports.
Unhealthy lifestyle choices are increasing the numbers of heart-related cases in Ghana. That's according to the National Cardiothoracic Center. Its director, Dr. Lawrence Rebo, attributes the increase in bad health choices such as unhealthy eating, irregular checks of blood pressure, weight and sugar levels.
We have people that have adopted our traditional, very healthy lifestyles. If you go to our villages, you see the people there, they are slim. They are not fat like we have in the cities. Though we don't know the exact statistics, we know that it's increasing. And from hospital admissions, hospital data, we know that it is increasing, unfortunately. Simple lifestyle changes can impact greatly on your cardiovascular health. Something to do with your diet. Avoid diet that is high in fat. Make sure that if you smoke, you stop. Make sure that you are physically active. Make sure that you watch your weight. Make sure that you visit your doctor at least once a year. You should know your numbers, as we said. Are you hypertensive? Make sure it's treated. Are you diabetic? Make sure it is treated. You smoke, stop.
Ghana records one hole in heart patient in every 100 live beds. This, the head of the cardiology unit of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Abdul Samen Tanko, says can be dealt with if government plans and enforces programs tailored towards healthy living, particularly in institutions where he says people work under stress.
In a day in a cardiothoracic center, you could see about, or in a clinic day, you could see more than 100 cases. We don't take our life seriously. A lot of people have blood pressures and they are walking around with it. The next moment you hear is heart attacks. The next moment you hear is strokes. The next moment you hear is, oh, he just suddenly, he developed some vision problem, eye problems. This is because of the risk factors that come along or that bring all these things. So we should be doing more education. I always give this analogy that people tend to go and check their cars. DVLA compels you to know all the stuff about your car, whether it is functioning well. But we don't DVLA in quote ourselves.
World Heart Day will be celebrated in Ghana on the 29th of September on the theme, My Heart, Your Heart, and Our Hearts. For Joy News, my name is Hannah Odame.
So you heard the advice, DVLA yourselves, check yourselves more regularly.